Is your team popping ibuprofen instead of actually treating the inflammation? This is something that we see all around today because so many tech executives are telling me that they're constantly putting out fires, they're constantly overwhelmed, and yet even though they're putting all of these efforts into handling what's popping up, they don't seem to actually be making ground. It seems like they're always stuck in this loop. And actually, with all the good things that AI enables us, this is an area where it just might be making the problem worse. In this video, we're going to cover how you're going to be solving things once, how you will stop redoing the same things, how you're going to stop tackling the same problems so you can actually start moving forward, gaining more momentum and becoming faster as an organization. Why? Because life's too short to lead a mediocre team. And if you're new here, I'm Aviv Ben-Yosef, I'm a tech executive, coach and consultant, and this is exactly what I do. All the videos in this channel are about creating a team that's actually energizing to you, super productive, has dramatic results, and also it's just fun to lead because life's too short to do anything else. Now, let's cover exactly the problem. Healthy teams are teams that constantly improve. That should be table stakes. However, so many teams nowadays are not actually tackling the root cause that's introducing the problems, but we just treat the symptoms. You have an alert, you go and restart whatever server is problematic. You had a problematic release, you undo it and fix the bug. But what about how did you even end up there? Right? If we never tackle the actual root causes, we are actually just accumulating more and more problems, and that's why you feel like you're always drowning. You feel like things are always just becoming harder and tougher as the team matures and as the team accumulates more and more code that it has to support. And man, with AI, you're accumulating code much faster, I'm sure. I know you're busy and you have to tackle whatever is popping up. You want to keep the dashboards green. However, if we don't actually get to the root cause of an issue, we're just, this is a treadmill. You're never going to get anywhere. You're making a lot of effort, but you're standing still. You don't want to create that sort of an organization, and it's a surefire way to eventually have a team that's burned out, have high attrition, and just not highly impactful, because again, you're wasting your time doing these and redoing this and tackling those fires as opposed to actually bringing in new value, which is fun and actually what the team is supposed to be doing. Every unresolved root cause is like a future tax on the team's productivity. And this is usually different than regular tech debt because it's not often just in the code. It might be in the process, might be in the organization. It's not something that's very easy to pinpoint. And therefore, you are accumulating it and it's not obvious. If we don't do the deep drilling to understand exactly what the root cause is, we might feel like we're tackling things, but not actually making any real material improvements to the team. The compounding complexity here is astounding. If we keep adding more and more of these root causes and not tackling them really, the team very easily can end up spending 50 to 60% of its time just doing these supporting activities as opposed to producing new value. I've seen this happen countless times. Actually, not just in more mature companies where you expect it to be slow, but I've seen it happen to startups that had less than 10 engineers. It all depends on how good and pragmatic you are when it comes to tackling these root causes. And let's add the AI aspect here. I'm not anti-AI at all. I probably overdo it when it comes to like automating things that in my line of work just because I like it. I hate letting it write, but other than that, it's very useful. The problem with AI is that now it has gotten so much easier to just pop that ibuprofen without even thinking about it. I was talking to a CTO who told me that, yes, I know that my team needs to get better when it comes to tackling the quality of our front end, but I'm looking at it and I know that the same amount of time it's going to take me to write up the ticket or send a Slack message about, hey, you need to fix this, you need to fix that. It's going to take me less time to just go open up Claude and tell Claude what I want to fix, and then I have the PR. So I don't do that. I'm like, okay, how many times a day do you find yourself doing it? And we realized that he has probably dozens of these things happening every week. I'm like, okay, you might, in every single one, if you look just at that, might be wasting time if you'd go and write it up. But don't you think that if you tackled it, did it a few times so your team actually learned what you're expecting, what's the right bar for the team, you then would just solve it indefinitely. So we are looking at this from with a myopic way. That means that we're very short-sighted. We're not thinking about actually getting to the root cause. We're reaching to just AI, Claude, whatever you're using, and telling, hey, fix this, fix that. Boom, we have the fix. We feel like we have the hit. We already gotten that fixed. We can move on with our day. But we did not actually improve the team. We're slowly covering up the root cause more and more, which means it's just going to be that much harder to dig it up later. That's a big thing that I'm seeing AI causing all over the place, again, with more mature teams and new ones, because it's just, I understand the temptation to just fix whatever is happening without even thinking about it is very, very big. And sometimes now getting to the root cause has gotten that much harder because you might not understand the code enough. You might not have enough of the context. And therefore, you might not even understand that there is a deeper root cause here without putting in some more effort. And that's how AI just might be making things worse when it comes to your team's overall velocity. Right now, maybe they're spewing PRs left and right, but along with those PRs, you are accumulating those deeper issues that will make the cycle of firefighting just that much worse every passing week. The guiding principle to solve this is to understand that our bar is to only tackle an issue once. We do not want to see things recur. We do not want to see things again and again, but we see a problem, we find out why it's happening and get rid of it. The next mistake will be a new mistake. I always tell my clients we're going to be making loads of mistakes, but might as well be making new ones as opposed to repeating the same old mistakes. Your goal is not to firefight that much faster. It's to avoid having these future fires in the first place. We want to ensure that we don't have keep installing more and more, extinguishers and sprinklers, but actually finding out who's running along in the corridor throwing matches all around and making sure that that guy is out of the building. And to do that, we have to tell the team what we expect. Yes, tackling a specific issue might take longer, and it's fine in the moment. If there's an outage, I'm not saying we're gonna take now 5 hours just to understand what's the root cause. It's fine to quickly, put a finger in the dam just to prevent the leak from continuing. But then you also need to ensure that you're gonna do it well. You're gonna find the problem and fix it once and for all. Think about the simple math. If you have 2 week iterations, in every iteration you find a root cause and fix it just once. Every iteration. That means you're going to be having dozens of improvements, root cause improvements in your team every year, and that's per team. These are things that really compound in order to ensure that your team actually gains velocity as it matures, actually gets faster, actually has higher output, and not just velocity theater that we're now feeling with AI, but actively making things better and allowing the team to operate much faster. Let's go through the few things you can start installing in your team right now to ensure that you're solving things once. First, and that should be a no-brainer, is good postmortems. I'm not even sure you even have postmortems. Unfortunately, too many teams now actually only do it when things are really grave. But I have to say that this is an amazing tool. Whenever we do it correctly, the team actually finds a problem, gets into it, gets the root cause, and fixes it once and for all. And when we actively treat these postmortems with the seriousness needed, we can see the big difference. Why? Because, for example, when we do it like that and we don't just sit and say, yeah, next time we gotta have to plan better, that's that means nothing. What I always do is I review the action items post-mortem. When we do that, I can see whether people are taking this seriously or not. If we have vague, hand-wavy action items or no action items at all, that means that was just a waste of a good 30 minutes. But if I have things that are concrete, assigned to someone, have a deadline, I know that the team is treating their postmortems with the right sort of professionality. They want to keep improving. They want to ensure that they get to the bottom of things and get rid of them. Second, build tooling that avoids the scenario once and for all. This is not just about finding a bug and tackling it, but understanding what's happening in your organization and maybe getting a tool or an improvement in software that helps us ensure it's not a problem. If you notice the team has to spend a lot of time communicating back and forth with, onboarding new clients or with the sales engineers, or with customer success, or with marketing experiments, whatever it is, when you notice that something is taking up a lot of your time, try to think, can we just automate it somehow? Ensure that this is not a problem. So for example, maybe you can create a tool that lets the sales engineers configure things without having to rely on the software engineers. Maybe you can create something that automates 80% of those flows that customer success keeps seeing, so your team doesn't have to be there and do the manual testing or enable things or change the feature toggles or whatever you're doing manually. Try to create tools that not even are used by your team, the things that you can then hand off to others. Can you allow marketing to do things by themselves because now they have tools? This actually is where AI really shines, because it doesn't matter what your bar is for customer experience, for example, on the outside. Internal tooling often can be a lot more raw or rough around the edges. And that means that we can create these internal tools to see if they actually help us a lot and much faster. And that means the team can quickly say, okay, rather than just now me doing this work, putting out this fire because customer success wearing out, can I create something so that next time they will do it by themselves? Just create it, see if it helps, vibe code it real fast, and then move on. Because this is a game changer. This is where I can actually see teams benefiting immensely, because all of these little tools are little additions. And I've been talking about tech capital for years now, right? There's a whole chapter about it in my book, the orange one over there, yeah. And I think that this is critical. And now with AI, we can create these, we can amass it real fast. So you can do that, that's amazing. Next, realize that sometimes rewriting is the right thing to do. If you notice in your postmortems, if you're looking at things and you notice that there's an area where problems are repeating, don't just try to have better alerts, more tests, whatever, or chipping away at it. Sometimes the actual good thing to do is to say, okay, to heck with that, I'm redoing the whole damn thing. For example, sometimes we realize that there's an API that we're using and it has been useful for, a year or two, whatever, but it is flaky. And I'm saying, can we take a second and say, okay, can we just rewrite it? If we have a microservice that keeps having issues, maybe now we know things better and we can just rewrite it from scratch in a different way that's going to avoid all of those problems. You did it however you knew best to do it 2 years ago, but now can you just redo it? Don't chip away at it one little tweak at a time. Just throw the damn thing, burn it, and redo it, because now the cost of redoing something you understand really well has gotten much, much, much lower. And it just might be, if you look at the whole cost, the total cost of maintaining that existing code and keep changing it, as opposed to just taking some time to redo a thing, it just might make much more sense to do it that way. So now rewrites are much, much saner than we felt about them as an industry a few years ago. Another thing that you have to consider is whether you need to change the lines of communication. Again, as I said earlier, a lot of the root causes here are not just code. And they are hiding between processes in the organization tree, between teams. And you need to sit down and think, are things happening because communication here doesn't make sense? Because people cannot collaborate freely in whatever way that we created this team? Does it make sense to merge these teams, move someone there, have that sync, whatever it is? Think about your culture and your organization also as something that you can change here in order to solve things once and for all. You know Conway's law about the fact that an organization, however it looks like, ends up mirroring that same structure in the software that it's going to be creating. I say don't just look at it as a law, as something that limits you, but as an active design tool for your organization. Think about the problems you're seeing and wield Conway's law to ensure that the problem won't repeat itself. So if you see, a lot of the times now I'm seeing lots of back and forth between front-end and back-end teams. I'm like, are we still doing back-end and front-end teams? Can we mix them up to create these cross-functional teams that can do things end-to-end? This is an example of that. And doing so can really solve things once and for all. You won't have to have all of those syncs and things falling between the cracks between teams because it's all sitting in the same team. And lastly, this is a very useful thing to do, is to track root cause repetitions as a health metric of your teams. For each team, as you're seeing problems occur, try to categorize the different root causes of whatever is happening and see if they're actually solving things once or not. And this means that with time, teams will, especially your managers, but also the senior people, will actually be getting performance reviews about the root causes, among other things, of course. But this becomes something that's visible, in your face. We all know and see how crucial it is, and it's a number that's not easy to fake. Once we actually have the right postmortems, we talked about that, and we actually understand the root causes and we categorize them, and this is actually another place where AI can help. Just throw all the root causes, all the postmortems into it and see, if you can notice some clusters. If you see those repetitions, count them and say, okay, are we actually getting better or not? Are we adding more root causes, more than we're solving or not? That sort of stuff. Doing that can really help your team start flipping things around. And all that to say that you can and should start solving things only once. Next time that your team is tackling something, next time that there's a fire, rather than rushing for fixing the situation as fast as possible, take a breather and ask, are we solving things properly? Are we solving this once and for all or not? And if the answer is no, or maybe, don't. Take the time to do it well. Solve it so that your team can start accumulating value and not accumulating issues. That's it. If you like this, please like and subscribe. It really helps. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comments or in my email that's in the video description. I'll be happy to chat, and I'll see you here in the next video. Ciao.